Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a bookcase, and I'm going to be doing it on this small notebook that I have. So we're going to be making it out of very small granny squares that are going to have a flower shape in the middle. And this is a solid one. I'm going to make one out of color as well because I'm going to have mine alternating. You can do different colors than I'm going to do, but this middle flower for me is going to be a sunflower. So the colors that I'm going to be using are, of course, this tan color. I'm going to be using white, and I'm also going to be using yellow. And for this pattern, you're going to be needing a 4mm crochet hook, and let's get right into it. So for the colored one, for the center of my flower, I'm going to be using this light brown. So we're going to start off with a magic ring. And in our magic ring, we're going to be making 8 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And now we're going to close up our magic ring and slip stitch into our first single crochet to close our circle. The first one is always the tightest. There we go. Oh, but we're not going to finish our slip stitch because here we're going to make our color change to the petal color. So you're just going to grab your scissors and cut it off. Leave a nice tail so that it doesn't come undone. And then we're going to grab our petal color, which for me is the yellow. And I'm going to just finish my slip stitch with yellow and pull this tail tighter to make it the same size as the rest. And now we're going to be working our petals. So for this, we're going to chain 2 and then make the beginning of a double crochet into the same stitch as your chain 3. And what I mean by that is you're going to pull through the first 2 loops and leave that loop on. And we're going to do this again. And then one more time, so that with our chain 2, we have 4 loops on our hook. Just going to bring it closer so you can see. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops, just like so. And then we're going to chain 2. And that is our first petal. And then into our next single crochet, we're going to make 4 of those double crochets because the chain 3 counted as 1 before. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook. And as you're doing this, I'm just going to show you, I've been working around the tail here so that it doesn't get pulled out very easily. And of course we can tie it off at the end, but that'll just help secure it as we work. So we're gonna make our first part of our double crochet. We're gonna do that another time, insert our hook, pull our yarn through, pull through the first 2 loops, leave those ones, yarn over, insert our hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through first 2 loops. Now we have 3. I'm gonna do that again, yarn over, insert our hook, pull it through, and pull through 2 loops so that we have 5 on our hook. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 5 and chain 2. And we're going to be working these petals the whole way around. Again, just making our double crochets until we have 5 loops. Yarn over and pull through all 5 and make 2 chains. And I'll show you one more time, as close up as I can get here. So we're going to yarn over, insert into the next single crochet, pull up a loop, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, insert our hook, pull up a loop, pull it through 2 loops again, So you have 3, yarn over, insert our hook in the same stitch, pull up a loop, pull that through 2, so now we have 4, yarn over, insert our hook, pull up a loop, pull through 2 loops, and now we have 5 on our hook. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 5 stitches and chain 2. I'm just going to finish the rest of these and then we will go on to our next round. And as you're working, you'll want to be careful because your petals may cover up the next single crochet. So as you can see, this one's gradually coming over my next stitch, which is right here. So you just want to make sure that you don't skip any like that. And at the end of this round, you should have 8 petals. And as you can see, as I'm working here, I have 7, but I have 2 stitches here. This one is our slip stitch, and that petal was worked in here. So you're not going to make a petal in this last one. We're just going to make a petal in this one. This will be our last one. And our 4th double crochet, like so, and then our 5 loops. And then we're going to make our last chain 2. Pull not the top of the chain 2, but we're into the one right above it. And we're just going to slip stitch in and fasten off. And that is the end of our flower. And one thing that we may want to do for our next flower that I'm thinking would make this less obvious would be to finish the single crochet in turning to yellow so that this slip stitch is going to be yellow. But I'll show you how to do that after this last round. So we're going to join our surrounding color in one of our chain 2 spaces. So I'm just going to pick this one. It doesn't really matter. And I'm going to chain 3. And then we're going to double crochet 2 times into this space. And again, as you're working, just try to work around the tail a little bit to keep it secure before we can tie it in. And then in our next one, we're going to make 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. But this is also where we are going to make our corner. So then you're going to chain 2 and make 3 double crochets into the same chain 2 space again. So this is 2 and 3. One, 2, 3 double crochets into our next chain 2 space. And then work another corner into our next space, which is going to be 3 double crochets, again, followed by a chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets into the same space. 1, 2, and 3. Just like so. And then in our next space, again, we're going to be making 3 double crochets, and we're just going to repeat this around, and every other will be just 3, and then the one in between will be our corner. 2 and 3, our last double crochet. And then we are going to slip stitch into the top of our chain 3 and fasten off and cut your yarn. And that is a little granny square that we're going to be using for this pattern. So like I said, I'm going to be alternating with white flowers and light brown ones. And I will show you how to make the light brown one. It's very simple, just no color changes. But before I do that, I'm going to show you how to get rid of this color right here. So we're going to start off again with making our magic ring. I always forget which way to wrap it around my finger. And then we're going to make 8 single crochets into our magic ring, just like before. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're just going to pull that tight. And actually we're not. Like I said, I forgot my fix here. So for our last single crochet, we're going to join in our yellow. And that should hopefully get rid of that. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut off my brown yarn here already. Grab my yellow and finish my last single crochet in yellow. Just leave a bit of a tail there. And pull that one down to make it tighter. And then in yellow, we're going to make our slip stitch into our first single crochet. When we do this, just bring the yellow tail behind here so that we can kind of start to work it in already. And then we'll just slip stitch right through. And then this is what you should have so far. And we're going to make, just going to pull the yellow one a little bit tighter because we're not going to be making a petal in that one. Like I said on the last one, we're going to skip because we're going to make our first petal in this one. So I'm just going to show you how to start this one off. We're going to, again, make it like our first petal with our part double crochets with pulling up a loop, pull through 2 loops, pull up a loop, pull through 2 loops, yarn over and pull up another loop, and then you have 4, pull through all of those, and then a chain 2. And as you can see, now this part right here was brown in the previous flower, and then you got that little brown yarn in there, which kind of disrupts all the petals. So now it's going to be in yellow right here. So that is how you can avoid this color change. And I should have thought of that before, but I didn't. So that's how you're going to fix that. So now I'm just going to put this off to the side, and I'm going to just show you how to make a solid one of these, which it's exactly the same but without color change. But I'm just going to put this in here in case any of you guys find it helpful. So we're going to start off the same way with our magic ring, and we're going to make 8 single crochet into our magic ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Close up our magic ring and slip stitch into our first single crochet. And then we're going to start, sorry, I can't speak English today, making our petals in our solid color. And we're just going to yarn over and pull through 2 again, over, insert our hook, pull up a loop, pull through 2, you should have 3, and then again, till you have 4. Pull through all and chain 2. And we're just going to repeat this the whole way around until we have our 8 petals. And 4. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the petals off camera, and then I'll be back to show you the last round again. And once you've finished all 8 of these petals, we're going to slip stitch into the top of our first petal. Let's try that one again. And let's try that one more time and not pull up a yarn. There we go. Okay, perfect. And then we're going to slip stitch into our chain 2 space. We're going to chain 3 and then make 2 double crochets into this space. Then we will make 3 double crochets into our next space. 2, 3, and chain 2, and then make 3 more double crochets into this space. And then we're just going to be finishing the round the exact same way with, in the next one, we'll make 3 double crochets, the next one will be a corner, 3 double crochets, a corner, 3 double crochets, and the last one will be a corner, so that we have a square looking exactly like this one. And the number of these squares that you're going to have to make will depend on the size of your book. So mine is going to be 8 across and 4 down. But I'm just going to show you how we're going to be doing this. So for this is going to be the book, and then we're going to have the cover coming in and being sewn over so that we have a flap where to stick the stiff book cover in, and it's going to be almost a square long, so it should be coming out about this much. Just so you guys know how long to measure for the cover. So I'm going to be needing 32 squares for this, so I'm just going to go ahead and finish all 32 of them, and then I'll be right back to show you guys how to sew them all together. And now that we've finished all of our squares, it's time to sew them together. And you're going to want to grab a darning needle and whichever yarn you're going to use to sew them together, and then we will start making our cover. So mine's going to be a checkerboard because I have 2 different kinds that I'm using. So we're going to be taking our darning needle and our color of thread that we're going to use to sew it together. I'm going to use white. And we're just going to be stitching them together to form a rectangle. So I'm going to start by going through the one corner of this one and the corner of this one. And I'm just going to tie a knot right here. And then we're going to be stitching our squares together, and they should have the same size of, or the same number, sorry, of stitches. So we're going to just be coming through the back loops of the stitches, I believe, and then back in through these. And back up through this back one and this back one, and then back down through this back one and this back one. You can even choose to slip stitch them together if you would prefer that, but I like to use a needle and thread. And we're just going to work our way until these two are connected. And then you're going to want to pull the yarn tight that you used to sew it together. So once you've come to the end and it's attached, we're just going to pull it tight and then stretch it out just to make sure that it's nicely attached. And we have our first two squares connected. So we're just going to continue in that manner, and then I will put my next one here. And just keep in mind how many squares wide and long and wide it is. So I'm going to be making, just going to show you 4 squares down and then 8 squares wide, if that makes any sense. And then once you have them all in the rectangular shape, all sewed together like that, then come back here and I will show you what to do next. Okay, so I've sewed all of my squares together and this is what I have so far. One thing that I did notice when I sewed them all together is that it turned out bigger than I thought it would be, but just one thing for you to keep in mind is that apparently the squares stretch a little bit more than I thought they would. I think it's because when I did the color changes and everything, for some reason these squares seem to be a little bit bigger than the brown ones, which I measured off of for the book. So I'm not sure if maybe there's a slight difference in the yarn thickness or if I just did looser stitches on these. So just one thing to keep in mind when you're making this, and one thing for me to keep in mind in the future. But this is the back side. Looks like a mess. I'm going to be weaving some of the ends in, but we're going to start by making our cover. So we're going to be single crocheting around the whole edge to make the edges straighter. And then when we come to these parts here, we're going to have the last squares on the end folded in to make the flap to stick the book cover into. So when you get to this section, we're going to single crochet the top section here together. But I also want to have a single crocheted border on here. We're going to have single crochet across this edge and then across the other edge first. So you're going to grab the color of yarn that you want, which I want my brown yarn, which I no longer have. So I'm going to go grab that and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that we have our border yarn, I'm going to be using this brown, like I said, because I think that the white stands out more, so if I surround it in brown, it'll make the brown pop a little bit better. So we're just going to join it right in the corner space. And chain 1 to join it. I'm going to be making 1 in the corner space and then chain 1 in every stitch across, which I believe should be 9. And I'm just going to work the tail in a little bit right away and pull it tighter so it looks neat. And then the parts where you tie it off will of course be harder to slip stitch into, but just do your best and it should turn out fine. And you'll want to make these stitches not too tight that it curls in, but tight enough to make it straighter and not have it loose and I don't know, not straight. So we're just going to work 1 single crochet into this joining place, and then I'm going to just reach over into the next chain 2 space and make another single crochet, and then continue in the stitches to make 9 more, which will join up the squares much better. As you can see here, there's a little bit of an indentation, and I'm just thinking that will help bring them together better. And when you come to places like this where I did not tie it together or on the back like I did with all my white squares, you can just, let me work up to it real quick, do the same thing that you did with the tail when you joined the yarn at the corner and just work around it. Okay, well that one's a little bit too tight. Just bring it to the side and work around the tail, and then once you've worked around it for a couple stitches, you can just go ahead and cut it off and make it shorter. And I'm going to be doing the same thing to these tails that I made when I was sewing the squares together. Just going to bring them into the border. So that's the cool thing about doing a border on the edge, not only to make the edges straight, but to also weave in as many ends as you can as you continue to work along. So I'm done with this brown one, so I'll just go ahead and cut that one off. And then I'll work this white one into a couple more stitches yet. And this will just help everything to be much more secure. Okay, so we're just going to be single crocheting all the way across this edge. We're going to cut our yarn off when we get here, and then we're going to go over to the other end and just single crochet across this end. And once you have both ends, both short ends single crocheted across, you're going to come back here, and then we're going to get working on making the shape of our book cover. Okay, and now that I have gotten both edges single crocheted across, we're going to be working on the top here. But like I said before, this part is going to be folded over for the cover to go inside. So I'm going to join my yarn in this chain 2 space and this chain 2 space. So just grab your yarn, pull it through both chain 2 spaces, and slip stitch to join. And then we're also going to make a single crochet in the same chain 2 spaces. And then we're going to try to keep this even as we single crochet, joining them as we keep working. So I'm just going to try and show you here. You're going to go through this stitch, and then you're going to go through the exact same stitch on the brown square and make a single crochet. Again, through this one and this one, make a single crochet. And we're just going to keep single crocheting through both until we reach the end of the 2 squares, where we are going to single crochet again in both chain 2 spaces. And we have 2 tails here that I'm going to start working in as I continue to single crochet, but I think in these chain 2 spaces, just to make it run together a little bit better, I'm going to make 2 single crochets in this chain 2 space. And then 1 in the next one, just to carry it over a little bit better. And then we're going to continue single crocheting just across the top edge. There's nothing else here to join. We're just going to keep going like this and start working the tails in. And once you've gone a decent amount of stitches, then we'll just pull the tails tight so they don't peek through, and then cut them off. Actually, I'm just going to make one more stitch before I do that, just to be sure they don't peek through the front. There we go. And then we'll cut them off. Just in time to start working our next tail in. So this is the most annoying part about working with granny squares, is the tied off ends. I'm pretty sure there is some invisible join that you can make, but I have not gotten around to learning that yet, so for now I'm just going to be annoyed. So, and then we're going to just work our way all the way across until we reach our last square. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that off camera, and then I'll be right back. Okay, now that we've reached our second last square, we're going to fold this one over as well, to make the other side. And we only have one tail right away to start working in, so we're just going to go into the chain 2 space like before, and I'm going to make 2 single crochets. Again, I'm working around the tail that I have here. And then we're just going to do the same as before, working through each stitch a single crochet to join both sides. I'm just gonna tuck the tail down when I've gotten far enough, and then I'm just gonna keep working. So for this one, I kind of left all the edges on the outside because I thought it would be easier to make a border around it, but I changed my mind now. I think that it would be a lot easier if you have the fastened off edges of the granny square to put it here where you can just sew it together instead of having it all on the outward side, because the needle can go through it easier than the crochet hook. But just in hindsight, I feel like that would be a better way of doing it. I'll just stuff that end in there and then work over top of it just to hide it completely. And then we're going to come to the edge here, make our last single crochet, and fasten off and cut our yarn. And for this end, you can easily just insert your crochet hook into one of the squares and pull it into the flap because it will be hidden in there. And that is the one side done. So as you can see, it's starting to take a nice little shape here. So you're going to do the same thing across the bottom, just single crocheting the whole way across. And once you have done that, you can come back here and I'm going to show you an additional little bookmark that you can add onto this case if you choose to do so. We're going to have a flower hanging off the bottom of our bookmark. So we're going to start with the center of the flower, which we will make a magic ring. And we are going to make 12 single crochets in our magic ring. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then on our 12th one, we're going to pull up a loop like before, pull our circle shut, and then we're going to need our color for the petals of our flower. And on our 12th single crochet, we're going to finish that off with the yellow. And then we're going to slip stitch into our first single crochet. There we go. And now it's time to make our petals. This flower is going to have 6 petals in total. So we're just going to start by chaining 2, and then in our next single crochet we're going to make a double crochet, chain 1, and then in the front post of your double crochet you're going to make a slip stitch. And then we're going to make another double crochet in the same stitch as our other double crochet. And then we're going to chain 2 again and slip stitch into our next stitch. Just like that. And at this point, of course, you can cut off your brown yarn. Okay. And then to go on to our next petal, we're going to chain 2 again, double crochet into the next stitch, and then chain 1, and again slip stitch into the front top post of your double crochet. And then we're going to double crochet again into the same stitch, and then chain 2 and slip stitch back into the next stitch. Well, into the next stitch, not back into the next stitch. And that's, we have 2 of our petals done. So you're just going to continue this around, chaining 2, double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, and then slip stitch into the front top post of the double crochet. And then we're going to double crochet into the same stitch, chain 2, slip stitch into the next stitch. And we're just going to continue this all the way around the flower. And then to end it off, we're on our last chain 2, we're going to slip stitch into this yellow stitch right here. And then we're going to make that as tight as we can, and then fasten it off and cut your yarn. When you do this, you can arrange the petals so that they're all kind of doing the same thing, and then it will hide the knot in the back. So this is what you should have. So I'm going to go ahead and tie my ends together on the back here and cut them off to make it look neater. So this is what we have so far. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab my white yarn, and I'm gonna be attaching it to the back. I'm gonna attach it, I think, right in between these two. So I'm gonna grab, these 2 stitches are sticking out a little bit, so this is where I'm gonna be joining my yarn. You can just join it wherever works best for you. I'm gonna leave a bit of a tail so I can tie it on, and I'm just going to chain 1 and join it right here, and then I'm just going to begin to chain just nice tight chains until my bookmark is long enough to stick out the bottom of my book cover. And I already went and put my book into the case, as you can see. I'll just zoom out for you guys so you can see this better. Move some of my mess away from here. So then I'm going to be using this to kind of gauge how long my bookmark is supposed to be. So we're going to chain a few more yet. And I think that should be long enough. I'm just gonna open up the front here. As you can see, the case is a little bit bigger than I thought it was gonna be, which actually works out great because it covers the whole book cover and nothing sticks out of the ends. If I could turn it up, it's decently covered, which I like. We're just going to look here and join my bookmark right here at the middle. And if you don't have it like right in between the two squares like I do, then you might want to measure that off of your book. So I'm just gonna go ahead and slip stitch this on, which would probably be easier if I took the book out, but who actually likes to do things the easier way around here? We're going to fasten it off just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and for this flower, just to make sure that it's joined properly, I'm going to go ahead and tie a couple knots around the chain to make sure that we're joined. Okay, I've taken the book out, and what I think I'm going to do to anchor this in is just to slide it in some of the back stitches here. I'm just going to go ahead and put my needle in first because my yarn is a little bit short. Just going to go ahead and stick it through a couple of these and then spin it tight like this and thread it through. Okay. And then we're just going to pull it in here as best as we can. And then pull it out a little bit and cut it off, move our needle. And there we go, we have our bookmark connected. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my journal back inside and then I'll show you guys our finished project. And now this is the final product. Just like this with our little flower hanging at the bottom. I think this is pretty cute. I've decided to use this for my planner. So I have this and a nice little bookmark to keep my spot. I know it already has one, but I think mine looks better. So that is it for this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys are able to get some inspiration from this video. And if you guys decide to make this, leave a like or a comment. I have a lot of ideas for more book covers like this, and if you're interested, let me know, and I'll put a lot more tutorials or patterns out to give you guys more ideas on how to make more of these. I think they're super cute. But anyway, that's it for now. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys next week.